Hello, everyone. Welcome once again back to Owensboro, Kentucky. My name, once again, is Michael Charles Garrett. It's great to have you here with us through this recording. I'm in front of the camera, and Don is on the opposite side operating the camera. Today's date, Don tells me, is November 10th. No, November 8th. In the year 2025. Now we've just come off an election, and there were highly publicized elections in three areas. One was the state of New Jersey, the other was the state or the Commonwealth of Virginia, and the third one was New York City. Now, all of these areas are very blue, meaning they are very democratic. And all of the major cities in those blue states are ultra blue. And it really should not be a shock that Democrats won in all three of those blue areas. However, the opposite party is trying to make great hoopla over the results of the election, saying that the tide has turned against Donald Trump and his party. I doubt if that is true. Now, I don't normally talk much politics on this. These particular videos are dedicated to the Bible. They are not dedicated to political thoughts. I will make a few observations every now and then. But we have a situation in our nation right now where Congress, for like 38, 39 days, have been shut down. They've voted on it like 14 times in the U.S. Senate, and the Republicans overwhelmingly are voting to move forward, and then a vast majority of the Democrats are voting to sit on their hands and do nothing. And the Democrats seemingly think that if they hold out long enough, the public will blame the Republicans and Donald Trump. Well, I don't know what will happen. I can thankfully say their antics don't really affect me. I still receive my government check. I have no plans on flying on an airplane. So air traffic controllers not going to work doesn't affect me, but most likely they will affect other people, and I feel bad about them, especially as we approach the Thanksgiving Day weekend, where a lot of people have made plans to fly from one location to another location to be with family members and friends. And some of those trips are in jeopardy. And I'm sorry about that. But there's nothing I can do about it. For me and for like Don, life just goes on at our normal pace. Well, I had a thought, Don. Do you know who said the following? That, and I don't know if I have the quote down exactly, but there are two things in life which are inevitable. Do you know what those two things are, Don?
Taxes and death.
Death and taxes, or taxes and death. And I've always thought, well, according to the Bible, there's one more area that should be added to that list of inevitabilities. Do you know what that third item should be, Don?
A resurrection.
Well, yes, but something a little more specific than that.
The return of Jesus Christ.
Okay, we're in the ballpark, but we're not talking about home plate that I want to talk about.
A judgment.
There we go. If you would, turn to Romans chapter 14 and verse 10. Let me put on my reading glasses. Oh, before I put on my reading glasses, you all have seen the Bible that I have been using for a long, long time. I'm like 35 years. A few years ago, I had to have it redone because some of the parts of it were tending to break apart and maybe sort of like fall apart. I'm facing the same thing once again. I had at one time an exact duplicate of the Bible. I'll show it to you again. I often do this. I will hold up my Bible to show you that this is what I'm reading from. This is the very book that has been my friend for a long, long time. And 35 years is a long time, especially as much as it gets used. In fact, even here in this section of Romans, a good chunk of it has started to split away, the seam of it, about halfway down the page. So I keep thinking that I need to get it repaired, and I do need to get it repaired. Don, you want to go with me down to Evansville and try to find that book repair store?
Could, possibly.
Could, possibly. That wasn't much of a commitment, was it, folks? Well, anyway, I need to get down there and get that fixed. For a long time, I had an exact duplicate of this Bible. Now, the reason that's important to me, when I think about verses, I often can see them in my mind, whether it might be the upper left-hand corner of my Bible or the lower right-hand corner, wherever the verse is that I'm thinking of, I can sort of visualize it, and it helps me to find that verse, especially when I'm here speaking to all of you, and I don't have a lot of time to mess around with trying to find it. And I had this duplicate for a long time, and a while back, within the last year, Luke came to me one time and said, "Michael, do you have a Bible or two which I could have?" Now, Luke was aware that I have many Bibles here and in my bedroom and other locations. So I wasn't going to run short of having Bibles. And I thought about it. Luke had a translation, I forget what it was, but I think he began to question whether or not it was that accurate. I don't remember the whole story. But I said, well, sure, I have something that you can have. And one evening he came over, and it seemed like I gave him 4 different Bibles, different translations and different sizes. Some were on a smaller basis, a smaller book, easy to carry, easy to handle. Some were larger, and some were different translations. And I wanted Luke to have this because I wanted Luke to actually read the Bible and to study the Bible and to learn about the Bible. That's one of the main things I always wished for Luke, that he would become a good Bible student. Well, I did indeed give Luke my backup copy to the one that I now have in front of me. Well, about 2 weeks ago, I started thinking, why don't we see if we can find that exact copy, the same publishing company, the exact copy, a duplicate. And I got on my computer, and I think I got on Amazon. You know, Amazon became famous for selling books. And I ordered a copy. And just yesterday, a package was delivered to my mailbox, and inside was this. Now, Don, can they see that on the camera?
Uh-huh.
This is how my Bible used to look, but they worked on the binding, and when they did, the old cover was ripped away, I guess thrown away. But this is how my old Bible first looked, the same design on it. And I was so happy to receive this yesterday, and I actually told Don I think that I may get on Amazon and order another backup copy, just in case anything were to happen to the other two. I don't know, you could leave it in your car, and maybe somebody could steal it, or it gets wet, or Don's dog would come inside and rip it apart. Would he rip apart a Bible, Don?
The little rat would.
Oh, the rat would.
The big one wouldn't.
Max wouldn't do it?
No.
Okay, Max could probably swallow one of these Bibles. It's a big dog. How much does Max weigh?
83.
83. Well, he's a big dog with a big head. And so I'm very happy to have this, and knowing me, I will order another copy just so I have it. Just so I always know I've got the same Bible, and hopefully between these two Bibles in front of me and a future one, I'll have Bibles that I'm familiar with until the day I take my last breath. And so I was very excited that this new Bible came in. I'll put it over here out of the way where it's safe and sound. And I ask you all to turn to the book of Romans, and I mentioned chapter 14. And if you would, let's pick up the verse at about verse 10. Now, Paul very clearly says, and this goes right along with what Jesus Christ said in Matthew 7, and we're going to read that a little later, and the same thing he said in Luke chapter 6. Now, Matthew 7 gives a more full and complete explanation of what he was talking about. So we're going to go to that one, Matthew 7. Not right now, but we'll get there. And he says, before I go, one of the more important verses to me in the Bible is 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3. When Paul talks about this phrase, it rings loudly within me. It deeply affects me. It has long given me pause to think about it, to consider it, to mull it over, where Paul wrote, "The simplicity which is in Christ." I have a hat just over there within the reach of Don's left hand that it says simplicity. Most of the hats I wear almost all of them have sayings that I've had ordered for the hat. Like the hat today says, "They lie," and "they lie." And if I had more room, I'd put it several more times. I only had room for 2 columns. What does it say, Don?
They lie and they lie.
They lie and they lie. And if I had more room, I'd put another, "and they lie." And that can apply to a lot of things. It could easily apply to politicians. But it actually, when I ordered this hat, the purpose of this hat was to communicate in my own silent, secretive way my opinion of what I've often called Churchianity. The false churches of this world, Western world, who profess that they are in alignment with Jesus Christ. But if you just do a little study, and it actually doesn't take very long, you can prove to yourself, or anybody else can prove to themselves, that what the churches of the Western world, what I call Churchianity, they aren't really representative of the ideas of Jesus Christ. They represent the ideas of human beings. They are not based upon the Bible. I'll say it again. Most of the churches of the Western world do not reflect the truth of the Bible. I have said to you all before, I'll say it again. This program, this video, this podcast, whatever you want to call it, proclaims the truth of God, the Word of God, and the plan of God. That's what we are about. I am totally uninterested in attempting to explain some of the complicated ideas that so-called church leaders have come up with. To me, it's just mishmash, hodgepodge. It does not clearly and succinctly state the truth of the Bible and the truth of God. The simplicity which is in Christ. And as we turn to Romans chapter 14, and we read, and this again, as I said, goes, this line from the Apostle Paul directly affects or reflects what Jesus Christ said in Matthew 7. But why do you judge your brother? Why do you judge? And other translations might say the word condemn your brothers. And I must say to all of you, there are some church organizations of which I am somewhat familiar, and I'm thinking of a couple of them. One group of which I am thinking, I actually have had members of my family to grow up under the teachings of this particular denomination. I'm very familiar with the animal. I'm very familiar with how some of my relatives act. And I don't have much good to say about them. I mean, I really don't. I am totally troubled by them. And one of the items which troubles me so much is their propensity, the quickness, the desire, how easy it is for them to judge and to condemn others. And Paul asked the question, why do you judge or condemn your brother? He went on to say, why do you set at naught, which my margin says, why do you reduce to nothing your brother? Now, Don, think about it. What is the ultimate way to reduce your brother to nothingness?
Condemn them for everything.
Oh, I mean, no. I mean, to completely condemn them. What's the quickest way to do it?
Not have anything to do with them.
No, something more direct.
Punch them in the face.
No, something a little more violent.
Shoot them.
Shoot them. Because when you condemn your brother to nothingness, you are in essence attempting to destroy them. And the ultimate destruction would be death. So Paul could have also said, why are you trying to destroy or to exterminate your brother? Now, how do you destroy somebody? One of the best ways to do it is to tell lies about them. Now, in the common language of the law, that's often called slander and the defamation of character. In legal terms, it is an item that you can take somebody to court, and if you win your case, they have to shell out money to you. You know, a while back, one of the TV networks, I think it was ABC, don't quote me on that, ABC, CBS, I think it was ABC, they doctored some interviews of Kamala Harris that made Kamala look much better than she should have, and the Trump people sued that broadcasting company. Don, do you remember how much money Trump and his organization received?
No, but a lot more than I got.
$16 million.
Ooh.
$16 million. Because the court and the judge decided that what this broadcasting company had done was totally unfair and prejudicial. Well, that was just sort of like in the area of politics. But you can spread lies about someone that could actually cause that person to lose their job. That's a serious thing. That's sort of well on your way to attempting to destroy them. And I halfway think that those people should be held accountable who go out of their way to do this, especially when their motivation is nothing more than hatred. Hatred, and especially religious hatred. Oh, you don't believe what I believe. You belong to a different tribe than I believe. Therefore, I'm going to create as much public sentiment to try to destroy you. That's a crime. And in the old days, I dare say it might get you shot out in the middle of Main Street. Now, we're now sophisticated. We don't go out in the middle of Main Street and have a gunfight. But no, people do it with their mouth. They do it with their text machine. They do it with their computer. Or broadcasters might do it with their broadcasts. And it is a damnable thing to try to destroy someone. And here Paul, he can't say it any more clear. Why do you judge or condemn your brother? And why are you trying to set at nothing? Why are you trying to reduce to nothingness your brother? He goes on to say, verse 10. Now this is the shocker. This is the third thing we talked about a while ago. Death, taxes, and here comes number 3. These are certainties about life. If you live in a society upon this earth, you're going to face some form of taxation. You are going to someday face death when your heart stops beating and your lungs stop breathing, and you become what they say deceased. And the third part of that formula, as he says, for we shall all stand before the judgment seat of Christ. Everyone, no matter how important they are, no matter if they're a big Hollywood star or a big sports star, or whether they're a politician or a governmental leader, or just a normal mom and pop who are living in their home, trying to raise their family, take care of them. Whoever you are, regardless as to your status in society. And when you come before Jesus Christ, you won't be able to puff out your chest and act like, well, you're all cocky. Because you will be standing before the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, the Creator of the earth and the solar system and of all the universe. Compared to Jesus Christ, you will be a small little worm, no matter who you are. Maybe you make $10 million a year playing football or basketball. It doesn't impress Jesus. He goes on to say, verse 11, for it is written, as I live, says the Lord, every knee shall bow to me, and every tongue shall confess to God. That's from Isaiah 45, verse 23. Verse 12, so then, every one of us shall give account of himself or herself to God. Turning my page, let us not therefore judge one another anymore, but judge this, or consider this, or think about this, that rather that no man put a stumbling block or an occasion to fall in his brother's way. Think of somebody who is blind, and the town jackass, just out of meanness, puts something in the way of the blind person so that they hit that and they fall over. Maybe they break an arm or they bust up their face. There's just a cruelness about that. It's unacceptable for most decent people, and it is by all means totally unacceptable to Jesus Christ and God Almighty. And yet people do that all the time. They do it without even really thinking about the seriousness of what they're doing. They try to block a stumbling block or an occasion to fall And they might even take great pride in what they've done. And now we have these worthless punks that live in these big cities that apparently think nothing of pulling out a gun and shooting one or more people. Johnny Cash, Don, had a song, I'm stuck in Folsom Prison.
Mm-hmm.
He says in the song, I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. Now that was a song, that was a fantasy. But we have within our culture, our American culture, and our nation right now, people who have no respect for another person, who have no respect for another human life or their welfare. And they might just for sheer entertainment pull out a gun and shoot somebody. And what is even more shocking, there is that character Luigi Mangione who shot that health care executive who was a husband and the father of 2 children on the streets of New York City, came up near him and shot him in the head. And then there were hundreds, if not thousands of people who have sent cards and letters and money to Luigi, hoping that he gets out of prison. There are people out on the street, free Luigi, free Luigi. He's a damnable murderer. Back in the days of the Old West, they would have grabbed him up, put him on a horse, put a noose around his neck. They would have thrown the rope over a big limb and swatted the back end of the horse and let him dangle to death. They wouldn't even have wasted their time on a trial. Well, some people, well, that's not civilized. Well, what he did to that man definitely was not civilized. And yet people want to celebrate him. I don't understand that mindset. I really don't. There are some very sick people in our nation, and especially in those blue cities we often talk about. Very sick people. And I'm not really sure what it portends for the future. We like to think that we live in a civilized, advancing society. But folks, we're only a turning of a page or two away from becoming ruthless, ravening animals. And I fear that somewhere down the road, not that far away in time, that is what our society is going to become. Yes, I'm thankful that President Trump won the election back in November of 24. I really am. I cannot imagine what a mess we would be in if Kamala were the president. I can't even imagine the chaos that would ensue. Because when she was vice president, everything she touched became chaotic. But what's going to happen in the year of 2028 when there's a new presidential election? Is Gavin from California, is he going to become the president? Or is AOC going to become president? I don't know. I just know that most of my life, most of my human life is behind me. And I don't have that many more years in front of me. Is it 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? I don't know. But I think about people like Luke, whom I truly admire and appreciate, and about whom I am very concerned. What world is Luke going to inherit? Don has grandchildren. What world are they going to inherit? I don't know. It's a thing to worry about. Maybe I won't have to see the roof collapse. But somewhere down the road, indeed, the roof is going to collapse upon the heads of the American people. If you would turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 5, where Paul, in a shorter form, repeats what he said there in Romans 14. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10. When he said, we must, or you could translate that, we will, we shall all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that everyone may receive the things done in his or her body, in her life, according to that which he has done, whether it be good or whether it be bad. That's a reality most people don't stop and think about. Most people think about taxes because every so often you have to pay taxes on something. I know just a few days ago I had to go down to City Hall and pay taxes on the property where I live. And coming up here in early November, any day now, I will be receiving a tax bill from Davis County, wanting their share of money in the form of taxes. You go to the store, you have to pay sales tax. You go license your car, you got to pay tax. I mean, everywhere we go, we get taxed. We know that's a reality. The idea of death. Now, Don, be honest here. When you were 20 years of age, did you think much about death?
Not a whole lot.
It was basically just, well, that's for old people. That's for sick people. But I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm strong. I don't have to worry about death. Don, you're not 20 years of age anymore.
No.
You said to us a few days ago, weeks ago, that you will soon be 70. Now, 70 is not ancient,
No.
but it's not young either, is it?
No.
No. Do you think that maybe death is more of a reality to you now than it was 50 years ago?
Probably, but I try not to think about
Okay. It's a reality, but people, just like Don said, I don't really want to think about it. I have some relatives in my family, some siblings, and they're older than I am, and they don't really want to talk about the possibility of death. Well, I understand the aversion, but again, no matter how you do it, you're not going to get out of this life without paying taxes. and you're not going to get out of this life without dying. I should qualify that. There's one group. There's one group. And I presume that some of those people are alive right now. There are some people right now who have been called and chosen, selected to be on Team Jesus. I'll use that phrase. Team Jesus. And because they have been granted that great gift, and they have been granted the Spirit of God, and they have had their names written into the book of life, if they simply hang on to the truth which they have been taught, and which they have learned, and hopefully they continue to learn, there's a real possibility that that small group of people will never die. Think about that. That somewhere down the road, probably not that far away, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I don't know. But someday, I think fairly soon compared to the 2,000 years that has passed since he was a human being, that those people will be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, like 1 Corinthians 15 talks about, and changed from mortal flesh and blood to eternal spirit being. So there are a few people who will literally escape death. Now, where does that put me? I'm starting to walk further and further out on that plank coming from the side of the ship. And maybe if each year were another step, I'm getting closer and closer to the end of that plank. And somewhere out there, I don't know when, there's a possibility that I'm going to run out of steps, and that my life will come to an end, my physical life. I just hope and pray and ask and beg that when Jesus Christ returns to this earth, and the seventh and the final trumpet is blown, I just hope that Jesus Christ remembers me and brings me back to life as an eternal spirit being. And folks, I'm not going to heaven. Don, you can tell some of your relatives, Michael C. is not going to heaven. And some of them might say, well, Fafa, that's what they often call Don, Fafa. Are you saying that Michael's going to hell? No. Other than hell meaning a hole in the ground, a grave. That's the only hell I'm going to face. Hopefully. There's a certain reality to what I just said, Don. Like, wow. No, when I die, they'll put me in a casket, I hope. I hope they don't turn me into charcoal briquettes.
I got a place for you, Mike.
Nope. Don't want to be cremated. That's something my father told me multiple times near the end of his life. Promise me that you will not cremate me. And I said, Dad, I absolutely promise you that you will not be cremated. And he wasn't. He's lying in a casket next to his sweetheart and his wife of, 60 years or more? And he sleeps. He has no pain. He's totally unaware of the passage of time. And somewhere out there at a future date, he and my mother and other relatives and other people from this nation and other nations will be brought back to life to live life as a human being once again, and at that time they will be shown the truth of God. And yes, Don, I hope I'm their teacher. I truly do. But it's very common for people to say, well, he's going to go to hell. Well, that's going to be hard to do because there's no such place as this ever-burning cauldron of fire where people suffer and suffer. I once explained this, Don, and I got some, I think I really turned some people's stomach when I said it. I said a lot of people actually teach that God is like a pet owner who becomes disgusted with their pet and takes them out into the backyard, builds a large fire, and burns them to death. Now, folks, that's what many churches, that's what they actually teach. And they're so proud of themselves when they say it. Well, he deserved it. Do not judge your brother. Don't they hear those words from Jesus Christ and the Apostle Paul? Don't those words mean anything to them? But rather, those people who follow those false churches, the world of Churchianity, they lie, and 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 I could say it for all evening. And yet people go to the doorsteps of their church, think, oh, I'm so lucky to have this little box with its little steeple to be a part of, because they love me. And yet when they become a member of that society, many of them, not all of them, but many of them, especially when they think they have more prestige, they will despise anyone that walks away from their little box with the little steeple to go join another box with a steeple. Or maybe they become wise and they totally disavow these places of false teachings. Don, you remember I mentioned this book, The Promise of Heaven?
Uh-huh.
And originally I was told that it would come in November 25th.
Uh-huh.
Well, I got a note on my computer the other day that says, the delivery has been delayed. So, I don't know, will I get November for Thanksgiving or will I get it later on in December? I don't know.
I don't know, but like this Bible, it got delayed for 6 months.
You had to wait a long time, didn't you? Well, guess what I found out?
What?
The fellow who wrote this book, supposedly, his name is Dr. David Jeremiah. I was blown away in the last day or two when I looked this up on my computer. He has a direct connection to a fellow by the name of Tim LaHaye.
Isn't that the Left
Yes,
Behind?
he's the originator of the Left Behind series.
Ooh.
They ended up, when one stopped preaching at a church in California called Shadow Mountain. The other took over that church. And they both come from a very common background. And both of them have contempt for anyone who does not belong a part of their tribe. And I tell you what, Don, when this book comes in and I have the opportunity, it is going to be so much fun to rip every paragraph that he writes apart. And hopefully all of you are watching, and hopefully by then more of you will be watching. And you can realize that these individuals who have great prestige in their church denomination, how I am going to show from the pages of the Bible, how that everything they have taught is wrong.
We'll have to call it the great debate of going to heaven or not going to heaven.
That's a pretty long title, Don.
Yeah.
You got to get them shorter than that. I might just call them They Lie, and They Lie, and They Lie. That might be my answer to them. Well, let's see what else we have here. Put my reading glasses back on. In my notes I wrote, there are certain church denominations. Now, I could name them, and someday I will name them specifically. I'm thinking of two of them in particular. I came up with three that are particularly bad. Loathsome, I might add. That exude. They're the denominations. Now, some church groups are much more low-key and more softly spoken, and don't always want to go around pointing a finger at people. But these three groups that I'm thinking of, they love to point fingers at people, other people, who are members of other tribes, not their own, unless they really do something bad. I remember Gary writing to me multiple times talking about a church community and church accountability. And as I said a while back on a video, that phrase sends shudders up and down my spine. Shudders. And I told Gary one time in a text, I am so thankful that you are not my judge, and that you are not my jury, and that you are not my executioner. And Gary, if you ever hear this, and maybe you will and maybe you won't, the idea of becoming a member of your church, your little box, with your little steeple, scares the hell out of me. I would never allow myself to be put under that internal scrutiny. Just wouldn't do it. Gary, you are not my judge. Jesus Christ is my judge. If something is to be done with me, it will be done by Jesus Christ. Not by people who lie about basic church and biblical doctrines. Why would I ever go to people who have false teachings? Not one, but dozens of false ideas. And oh, by the way, concerning Jesus Christ, who is my friend. Last Tuesday, Don, I think I told you, I went to see Dr. D.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't seen him for 2 weeks because he was off in Europe on a vacation. He was on one of those cruises that go up and down rivers.
Uh-huh.
This river was the Danube.
Ooh.
Do you know where the Danube most likely got its name?
Tribe of Dan.
The tribe of Dan, that is correct. Most people do not know that. Don, if we were on a game show, a trivia game show, you'd just win a new car.
Oh, right.
Don, Everly, come on down. You have won a new car.
And I can sell it to you.
At a discount. At a big discount. I'll just say, I'll pay the taxes on it and get the license. Well, these church groups that exude a culture of judgmentalism. I have said of Gary, he is arrogant, he is pompous, he is sanctimonious, he is judgmental. He reeks of self-righteousness. He thinks he knows everything. And as I said last week or two, with a 3-letter word, do I have permission to say it again, Don?
Go ahead.
Biblically speaking, he does not know his ass from a hole in the ground. And yet, he presumes that it's his role and job to pontificate upon me, to preach upon me, to lecture upon me. And quite frankly, Gary, I never want to hear another one of your lectures. I'm sick of them. To me, it's nothing more than being swallowed up in a giant vat of bovine defecation. Did I say that nicely, Don?
Yeah.
I was looking for the right words. Some people may say, well, Mike, you use too many cuss words. Well, I cleaned it up on that one. Give me some congratulations. Bovine defecations. Well, that's what I think of your crap. Now, I told myself, Michael, don't become angry. Don't get worked up. Don, tell me to take a deep breath.
Count to 10.
Tell me to settle down before you really say what you think. Well, I was talking about Dr. D. Last Tuesday, he'd been gone away for 2 weeks, then I went in there, and oh my, did he scrape and dig on my poor little toe. The initial nurse had my wound at like 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters by 1 millimeter deep. And after Dr. D got through scraping on it, it was 6 millimeters by 7 millimeters by 4 millimeters deep. It had grown exponentially. And I'm thinking, oh my, not again. Guess who I went to, Don?
Who?
Guess who I went to ask for help?
Oh, Jesus.
Exactly. And I said, dear brother, we've come too far for you to give up on me now. And there are some of these no good, rotten blankety blanks who want to make me feel as though you have walked away from me and that you have separated yourselves from me, that you've turned your back on me like they have done.